So let us get started. Tonight's topic is about doctoral expectations, and we're going to deal with the first theme in doctoral expectations, which is this idea of perfection or perfectionism. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you what was told to me. Um, the first comment about this idea of expectations that had to be let go, as that comments meant that I failed. When a person turned in their assignments and they got feedback, sometimes people took that feedback as if it was a failing moment for them. And it doesn't have to be. Oftentimes, the comments and feedback are intended for you to grow. So the person actually continues saying, comments help my study be clear, but it took me personally for a while. So they got the comments and the feedback and took it personal. And then that hurt for a minute. It stung, and I get that. But they were allowed to grow from that, and they created something even better. The issue with perfectionism is this, and I understand where it comes from. If you have made it to the doctoral level, to the doctoral program, chances are you have done school very, very well from grade school through college and even into a graduate school program. You were and are the AP/IB student of the doctoral world. You did school very well. You probably were used to grades as an indicator that you were a perfect student, and you got used to that. You probably also got used to the fact that most of what you didn't get harsh feedback. You always got great grades. You've always maintained a high GPA and things like that. And then you find out when you come to a doctoral program, we need a little more. So not everything was about having a 4.0. It was about who you are and how you grow. But because of the fact that you've been successful on every level of schooling, it can create within us this idea that my work is perfect. Perfectionism slows growth. You have to understand that. Perfectionism, this idea that everything I have to do has to be perfect, slows growth. So let's hear what someone else had to say. They also said, in regards to that question about expectations they had to let go, I had to get rid of the notion that I knew everything. They actually wrote anything. Trust your chairs, follow their lead, you will win. There will come moments in this process where you've got to trust the advice you're being given. And that's difficult for perfectionists because they've been so great in everything they've done. Now you reach a point where you don't know every single thing, and you've now received feedback that you may not like, but you have to trust the process for people to get you there and get you achieved and out of here. So you have to accept that as the part of the process of growing. And ultimately, if you trust that process, you trust others to lead you, you will win. We're in the process of pushing you further. So when we give you feedback, is with the understanding that we recognize your talent. We admitted you into the program. So we know you have talent to be here. You can occupy the seat. But now we're going to push you further, because the idea is that when you leave here and you go into your respective world, whether it's in higher education, corporate America, whatever field you're in, that you go there as an authority on a topic that you have chosen for your research, that you go and impact and move the field forward. That's an expectation. So in order to do that, you've got to embrace some of the bumps and bruises that goes along with that. Another participant noted in answering that question that everything had to be perfect. By the end, everything just had to get done. I still finished with my desired GPA, but those last assignments were definitely not my best work. Accept the fact that not every work you're going to do is going to be the perfect piece of work ever. That it will have some imperfections, that you will grow. What I've noticed too, and I did this in my personal experience, my advisor, wise man, said, no one leaves this thing unscathed. So when I went through my dissertation proposal and I sat there and asked my committee for the permission to do this study, and I did my background research and everything else, they lit that paper up. They had all these other recommendations that I needed to do before I could start my research. Had I been a perfectionist, I'd have quit that day. But because of my advisor who walked me in saying, no one walks out of this unscathed, I expected it. And because I expected it and let go of that perfection idea, I was able to kind of make it through and not be torn apart. I'll give you this. All of us go through it. Even now as professors and researchers and things like that, when we submit research for articles, for journals, we get harsh feedback. No one comes out of it unscathed. Everyone has this reviewer number 2. Actually, ask your professor about reviewer number 2 and then look in their face when you do. They will give you a smile and a smirk because they understand that even as a professor, even gone through that gauntlet and gone through that process, you will still submit work that will not be your perfect work, that you will still get feedback. And sometimes that feedback can be a little hurtful. And if you're of the perfectionist mindset, you may be scared out of this process. It may shake your foundation, but it's necessary. It's part of the process. So go through it, embrace it, and accept it for what it is. It's part of the process to help you get better. Another person said they expected they would get an A for every class. At this point in the game, you're in a terminal degree. Your GPA might not mean as much as it used to in high school. Now, I'll admit, in high school, it meant everything. In undergrad, it meant something. In graduate school, it meant something. At this point, you've earned the right to be here for your terminal degree. You may not get an A in every single thing, but that does not mean that you're not learning. Just don't get C's. Don't get that. But understand the process. You do not have to have a perfect paper for everything. Not everything has to be your magnum opus, things like that. You are part of this growing process, so accept it. One person said, and I have plenty of other statements that I'll get to you, but it said a dissertation is the start of your research career, but not the end of it. It is not intended to be a magnum opus. It is merely an entry pass. Just get your dissertation done. Great works come later. Oftentimes, your dissertation is the start of your research career. It is the launching pad. I suggest to my students that they publish before that so they understand and appreciate the publication process. But your dissertation is a big deal. It will, in many cases, launch your research career. Doesn't have to be the most perfect thing, but it has to be done. And it has to be something you're proud of. And it has to be something that you can grow from, that it can launch into many other things. So keep that in mind. This idea of perfectionism can crack most people. And the worst thing that it does, even to people who are occupying the world I'm in, is it will keep you from doing your work. It'll keep you from completing your work. Once you complete it even, it'll keep you from submitting your work because no one wants to have their perfect work criticized. So there are many professors out there, possibly even yours, who has a completed manuscript sitting in a Google folder that they haven't submitted because they're suffering from perfectionism. Perfectionism is a disease of the mind. So do not let that prevent you from ultimately reaching your ultimate success and doing what you need to do.